Yebo mkhulu.
Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. Welcome, everybody to the show. Overthinking Football Show. Pela guys, I am out of Facebook jail. Apparently, they reviewed my appeals and now I'm back. So we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at the same time right now. Welcome, everybody, to the Overthinking Football Show. I am your host, Jose Mukwena. This show is on every Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. and then also Fridays. Fridays at 12:30 because this is the breadwinner show. However, this show is the one where the guys who are contributing towards the platform get to have a show of their own, where I give you a little bit of a glimpse, man, to the WhatsApp group. Just a little bit of a glimpse of the WhatsApp group that we have, where we discuss a lot of things in depth. And today, one of the topics that we've been speaking about over the past few weeks, and I think it's very proper to discuss here, is what is the gap between South Africa, Africa, and Europe? How far are we from each other? Whether it be at a player level, whether it be at a club level. So, for example, Mamelodi Sundowns, how far are they away from a team from Serbia, for example? And those type of questions that we're going to speak about today. And I'm using Ungezana here because Ungezana, we were told and we were shown and we saw that he wasn't necessarily the best defender, but now he's gone over to Romania. He's about to be sold to France. 103 million rand, if I'm not mistaken, has been declined by his club.
I know,
Yeah, guys. Yeah, guys. Mutango.
GT.
Guys, I'm going to. Yeah, guys. Oh, I'm in the intro. Hey, banda. So he's been declined for 103. He's going to be. They're holding out for 140. So if a player of his caliber can leave the PSL and go that side and be at a certain level, does that maybe point to maybe European levels not being that high? We're also speaking about the AFCON, where we've seen some locally based teams and teams that have local players play very well that side in the AFCON, and some of the stars that side, or people that are coming from teams in Europe coming into the AFCON tournament and not performing very well. So I want to have that conversation, and this is a conversation we've had in the group. This was a topic that was chosen by the group members. And let me hear, how are you guys doing? Can you guys still hear me? Let me welcome you guys.
Sure. Yeah.
Mind you're clean.
Okay,
Clean.
no stress. Okay, so I don't know how we want to start this off, guys. Anybody have general comments to make about the general thing of this topic?
Yeah. I would like to go first, please, if you can allow me to.
Go ahead.
I don't think like it's a quality thing, but more of a currency thing, meaning like our rand compared to a euro is very weak. So players of what's his name again? Ngezana's caliber, if he was any good, he should be costing around 25 million plus, right? Because you guys, you've played fantasy league as a player starting off. So the types of leagues that you start off playing at are the ones scoring here, and hopefully go to a Portuguese league or even a French league. Then that is where you start going for those big boys. So I think what actually made us take notice and like, why is this player worth so much money? It's because of the exchange rate. Because 7 million euros or pounds is a lot of money, right? So obviously, when you come and report his valuation and whatever, how much is that holding out for him, when you convert that into how is Ngezana worth around 150 million, but the star player like Modao is worth around 30 million. But if you had Modao playing in the same league as Ngezana should have been around valuation yet trend, it was good. But Modao was gonna be worth about at least 18 million rand pounds, and that's like $1 billion. I don't know conversion rate to give a guy. That's all I'm saying.
But then Kumo, if I can just jump in, I think for me it's not necessarily the money conversation. for me, it's more of Gezana was not seen as a player who is very good when he was in SA, right? He got scouted to Romania, and he could possibly be playing in France, right, for whatever valuation it is, but he's about to go to France. So can we take this as an indicator that maybe our own view of our players, but also the view of Europe is interrupted by this thing, man, the stigma we have around Europe. So we think that Europe, no matter where, Romania, wherever, they're better than us, and European countries won't look at South Africa, for example, like that, up until the player gets to Romania and they'll take them. Is it really that high of a bar to get into Europe? Or should we be
No,
looking at it as that high of a bar?
because I understand what you're trying to say, and
Mm,
it's in the point is yes or no. Definitely, Romania is not the bar in terms of like good footballing countries. I
mm,
don't even know they even qualify for the Champions League, let alone the UEFA conference what ne, that they
mm,
play.
mm,
I don't know
mm,
any team, but I'm pretty sure they are. But my point is that ne, such transfer figures are common. And
mm,
also, if you play in Europe, it's easier to go to those top five leagues in Europe. For
mm,
instance, apparently in Europe, ne, if your team isn't ranked in the top 50, you have to
mm,
go via Belgium, via Championship,
mm,
via
mm, mm,
Paris before you can enter there. You understand?
mm,
So yeah, that's what I think. Because we know who the mighty Sundowns or even Bafana Bafana can easily take care of both North Macedonia, both Malta, both Romania. That's
mm,
simple stuff. But
mm,
the fact remains, if you are part of Europe, it's easier for you to access things in terms of like work permit. You've got history, they know you, you've been in Europe, so you kind of know the rules and the culture. Nyana. So that's what benefits. I mean, like, you know, unless you're from South America, these European teams don't take other leagues or continents seriously,
mm.
especially in Africa. They really are plagued with cheating, corruption, stuff like that. But
Mm.
if you're gonna compare these leagues and countries to standard of football and quality of football, then I'm gonna say no. But to everything else in terms of administrative and ease of access, then yeah, the European smaller clubs and countries are definitely better than us.
Okay. Guys, anybody want to jump in there?
Alright. On my side, Kuto speaking.
Yes.
On my side, the OT. I just want to ask you a question, right?
Okay.
And please don't ask for any other factor, just based on the facts that I'm about to present.
Okay.
Which player would you sign? A player from
Which?
Cameroon, or which player would you
Okay.
sign?
Mm.
Player from Cameroon or a player from Gambia?
A player from? Are you just cutting there a little bit?
Cameroon, a player from Cameroon or a player from Gambia? Please don't ask for any other factor.
Okay. If you're asking me like that, I'd go for the Cameroonian player.
What's the reason?
I'd be looking at the history of the country, to be honest with you. I wouldn't know anything about. Actually, you're not asking me, allowing me to ask questions. So I'd go for the history. So Cameroon has been known to take out people that are good, and Gambia, not so much. I don't know that many of the names there.
So that is the response. So when you
Mm,
look at the PSL, you find Uguti using mentally fit players who can withstand all of the conditions. They're actually
mm,
known for producing who want to go back home as soon as possible.
mm, mm,
Uh,
mm,
you look at your Percy's, you look at your Kanakimang, your Kermits, you look at your Bernard Parkers, you look at your Kilampellas. These are players who've actually been overseas but have spent a bulk of their careers Limes anti coming back. So there
mm,
is that issue. So
mm,
sometimes what they want to do is test Uguti. Do you defy the norm? Can you
mm,
withstand the cruel conditions that go Europe? Or
mm,
are you
mm,
the one is going to go on a drinking or something? You understand?
mm,
So
mm,
sometimes
mm.
to
Yeah,
and the
guys,
rep
if
of talented, but also the perceived mental strength. If we spend, because it's a risk, if we spend 100 million on this guy, are we not gonna to regret tomorrow when he says, guys, I actually wanna go home? I just watched an insert now of the legend that we've been debating on the side saying he actually went to West Ham, and people don't know. I didn't know. He actually went to West Ham, got there on trials, Bamshapaka long pass. He got to the side, and when he looked in the box, there was no one. What he did, Adivalada, 1, 2, 3, and immediately Suguma or Shang by 2. You understand? And by the time he decided to play across, the entire team had turned their backs on him, and the cross went out. And when he got to the room, he was told, apparently he says the F word was flying towards him from everyone. Or that's what say, right? And they made an offer. They still came back because he's a quality player. They still came back with an offer, but true to his South African nature, he was like, "Aki sharp, Aki back." You understand? So we do have such legends. We also have your Steve Lekolea, who apparently was in PSV Eindhoven, and they were ready to sign him. I think he was signed even, but 2 weeks in, homeboy lost his mind and was like, I want to go home. You understand? So these things have affected the value of South African players. Now we take it to South America. How much does a 15-year-old Brazilian cost? Not,
Before you go there, Malume Kutsa, I want to ask you on the question you were speaking about now. Does this then, if we speak about quality-wise, does this mean, when you just say quality, does this mean that if Ngezana can get into the French League One, right, as a player that wasn't really playing at Chiefs when he was leaving, right? What do we say about the quality of France? So is France somewhere that most South Africans, outside of everything else that you look at, is the quality actually that good at France, or is Gezan an outlier maybe?
Now, this is where Amachita also make the mistake in real life. You look at Han. Sorry to make this example, but you look at Han and you look at her boyfriend and you think, yeah, because you're looking at it from the perspective is certain features that you think are important, right? Important to you. Let's say opete the latest polo, the latest verpan, you understand? And you ngayithathela usherile le vaya ngeenyawo le ayinaniksi ayinawex-gym, only to find out he actually does have the same amount, but he prefers to buy houses, and the girl that he's interested in is into houses. So what you are using is the wrong matrix. You're using the verpa when you live in, but the guy lives on farms. You understand that? Or not even, let's not make it too luxurious. Maybe the guy actually lives in a standalone house called DK, and I'm not looking down on it, but the girl is like, I actually prefer a standalone as opposed to an estate. You understand? And when you like, it's an estate that I think with Abong Gezan, and the conversation I suggested in the group was coming from that Ngezana point of view to say we had a captain like Bafana Bafana who, when he played for us, we can't lie, bekazisa. I don't know whether bekazisa, but his key freedom of London, something like that. He's respected out there for his contributions. He was a regular at Portsmouth, but when he comes this side, agasivi, he come cake. You understand? So what is important to SA football is not necessarily important to European football. You know what I think? We like Olisander. Why? He's so calm on the ball. Like you ask about a defender of the year in Zan. Before they even talk about his tackling lines, and you already talk about how calm he is on the ball. Your Russian or your Ngobos. Right now, we like Olisander. You understand? Who's the defender at Sundown? You understand? But, Kada, ipona Melissa, uyakwazi ukushaya away na. Ipona Melissa Spain? Are you gonna be on the striker's back? Like, are you able to defend?
Mm,
Rona don't even really assess defenders on defending. We assess
mm,
defenders mainly on, can you help us progress?
mm,
Yeah,
mm,
man.
mm, mm.
Oh, not only just progress, but do you look good while doing it? You
But
understand?
what I get to with this convo, Malume Kutu, outside of those things, I, for me to use your example, I believe that we look at Europe as a hand. Ushapile weave, ushapile what? You think to yourself, yes, I can't get into there. There's no way that I can get into there. How when she goes home, she takes off the wig, she takes off the dresses, winkela loaf brown white chella. You're probably far better. And I feel that sometimes when we look at Europe and Africa, and even South Africa to a degree, I think we rate them so highly in terms of, for example, you can say England and Spain are high, let's say, right? England and Spain are incredible. But the conversations we have as Africans sometimes, and South Africans ourselves, is where we go, no, Maracay, yo, Europe, how pizza angeke angene Belgium. How pizza angeke angene Cyprus, Greece, wherever. And we tend to do this thing where we think just because it's Europe, it's better. So I wanted to find out what the gap is between us, because also I remember asking the question in the group, Mamelodi Sundowns, let's say not Mamelodi Sundowns, let's say Al Ali. Al Ali are Champions League champions, right? Where does Al Ali? How strong is Al Ali in the EPL? Would they be a team that's number 16? Would they not be in the league? Would they be in the championship? You know, and what is informing us in saying that? So I'm using Ungezana as an example to say, guys, we rated Ungezana very badly for whatever reason, right? But now Ungezana is about to get into France right now, right? France, League One. So then are we then going, I man, Nati Ilikwan, we put it too far ahead. Maybe, just maybe, our players are good enough to play in that league in general.
Can I say something also? Let me
Talk.
greet everyone. Sorry
Oh,
guys, man. I was
Theo.
doing something. Sorry for missing. There's something that I think we are forgetting. Like every player has attributes that others will not appreciate. You look at Maguire at England, Man United, they have a problem with him, but the national team is doing prop. So I think there are certain players that we have seen as South Africans that we are like, oh, facing down, oh, he missed the penalty, for an example. But when he was still in Brighton, then we were like, yo, Pesitao is a star. Yeah, so I think we have, like, our understanding of certain players, it differs from the other people's who are, I wouldn't say they are far ahead of us in thinking, but they don't look at player based on the performance, but they look at player based on how they can change and adapt and make that player adapt and grow from what they are. So you look at Ngezana, which I expected him to say he needs to start the ball from the back, and he needs to be comfortable in the ball, as Abudukutu just mentioned. But when we check abroad, sometimes they don't even care whether you start the ball from the back. Make those tackles, score corners, you understand? Be dangerous in corners. Like, just be a strong boy, you understand that? Be a tall, strong boy. Look at Bomani Kumalo. When Bomani Kumalo was playing for Tottenham, when he came here with Super Sport, you used to see some guys. Hey, that does not mean he's a bad player. That does not mean that he's not quality enough that he cannot go and compete abroad. It's just that our mindset is that once a player is struggling here, we think that player feel that player won't go anywhere. Guys, imagine being a star player of Leeds. You understand? But there's certain games and chiefs that we're looking at him, we're like, yo, but the thing is, my understanding is that Ungezani, guys, like Utoki right now, Utoki with his good, you kosher. I think if you can go to a team like Abo Brighton or somewhere there, like Ungezani, he can also be one of the best defenders. You'll remember the Kajo, I forget what is the name, the guy that was playing in the middle field. Yeah. If you remember, one of they even once rated him as one of the best midfielders in Europe. But he was very good as based on the South African pedigree. They said he was one of the best. But he came to Bafana. We were sometimes asking, what is he even doing here? You understand? So I feel like our mindset of understanding players is what differs from theirs. Not that we are far ahead or there's a big gap between us and them.
And that's why I wanted to ask, because this is not the conversation we're having in the group. Like ginger now. This is not the conversation. In the group I was told Europe is better. Yeah, you look at the names on these sheets and the teams that they play for. Remember the AFCON preview? And we were like, just because Le Monde Udale League 2 in France, they're better. And I wanted to get that because it's similar to the conversation we had about Upito, where Upito has a CAF license, CAF what pro license. He won 3 Champions Leagues. He's done it in Al Ahly, one of the biggest teams in the Gulf and one of the biggest teams in the world. The most pressured situation, blah, 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 blah. And people said, and I've even got comments on some of the videos where people said he wouldn't even cut it. Coluchin. He's not ready. So are we now saying that it's the attributes that we're looking at, and does Europe look at those attributes? Because if those attributes,
can I please jump after?
Let me just finish. If we're looking at attributes, Ngezana should be Ngezana. If we're looking at attributes, then League One should have gone. Look at this guy from South Africa. But my fear or idea is that Europe only accepted Ngezana once Ngezana had come into Europe. So if you're outside of Europe, I'm not going to look. It's what Bruce said about Upito. He was like, if Pito had a UEFA pro license, he's probably coaching in Europe right now. But because he's got a CAF pro license, and I feel like that conversation for me, because it feels as though sometimes we say, Europe, man. Europe is the best. Whether Uyale is the best. If you don't get in, it's because of that. To?
Yeah, no, Mr. OT, you know why we will say Europe is the best? Because, okay, let's use a yardstick to measure, which is the Club World Cup. Which federation? Federation has won the Club World Cup. It's UEFA for the past I don't know how many years. So that's the standard. So every player that wants to play at the highest level, whether it's South America or Africa or wherever, they will have to go to Europe because of that. So, but does it mean that everywhere in Europe it's elite? No, of course not. But then again, there's this element that we tend to miss out in this kind of conversations. I mean, PSL, it's a bit quick, it's fast and all of that. So it can expose a player. It can expose a player that is not used to that kind of level. That's why you'll find Mhlambe Ungezana is more suitable for Ipolesa Romania than he is for PSL. That's why he can shine now and develop a lot more quicker. There are players like that. I remember Pirates had Munetsi. Nobody here in this group can tell me what Munetsi did for Pirates. But he's shining for Reims League One to a point. I remember Nottingham Forest wanted to sign him, an EPL club. So that can happen where a player be as suitable for a certain league, but more suitable for a certain. We've seen Shevchenko. Shevchenko used to bang in goals for AC Milan. He moved to EPL and he struggled. It happens. It happens. So there are no guarantees that we can move from PSL and be successful in Europe, but it can also work the other way around. We've seen it with Ngezana Manje. So the interest in Ngezana, it's because he is improving. And the other element also is that, when you're away from home, you have to make it. You don't have a choice now. You can afford to be in your comfort zone. That's why we see some of which, honestly, we judge foreigners that come to PSL more harshly than we do to our local talent, because we say you're not adding any value. Who's that? PM the one that used to play for Chile. No Consola. You're not adding anything. You're actually worse than what we have here, So that's why if you're a foreign player playing you're not playing in your home country, you have to obviously up your game, which is what could be happening also with Ungezana.
I'm just like, if maybe it's because we're overexposed there, to. If you were to come to South Africa and say, I'm picking a defender, I don't know where Gezana would be, because even just play time, before he left Chiefs, I believe he wasn't playing much. At places, but he wasn't playing much, and I guess that's where the opportunity comes from. But it's fine, it's fine. Hauser wanted to come in, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying that Europe. Let me put it like this: Europe is the pinnacle, but not all of Europe is the pinnacle place for football. That's where all the stars go, and that's where all the top players are in the best leagues. But then again, what they're saying is that there are leagues which the PSL is better than in Europe, And this thing, Coach Pito wouldn't make it into Europe because, a standard and Pito is not up to standard. That's just a false narrative we create for ourselves, You look at the kind of coaches that are coaching in not the Belgian league, what's the Greek league. You look at the Romanian league itself. I remember I started following the Romanian league after Ngezani joined. Guys, when you expose yourself to other things, you realize that some of the things are just they fall under the word Europe. But then there is I believe that the PSL can go pound for pound with the Romanian league after what I've seen. But when they sign players, I believe that it's the players' attributes, that also count to him being signed to those leagues, like Ngezana himself and a bunch of other players, maybe the standard of the standards are different. You listen to how Bruce speaks about players who are playing in Europe compared to those who are playing in the PSL. He was asked before the squad selection, would he consider looking at players who are playing, youngsters who are playing in Europe and so forth. The kid who plays in England, it's the Champions League, I forgot his name. And then he was like, he's not up to par. But then in my opinion, when I look at when I look at just the word England, I'm thinking, he must be doing something right if he's starting games and doing those things. But then would he fit in well with the South African players? You look at those kind of attributes. What the previous speaker was saying that maybe the game is too fast in South Africa, and Gezana enjoys a slow game. And we've seen what happens when he comes up against a fast striker. So maybe that's the thing. But then in essence, there are parts of Europe that are better than South Africa as a whole and South African league. But then there are other parts when you start looking into the Turkish league. No, the Turkish league is up there. I would compare it with it's in the top 10 leagues. But then there are other leagues that are not they are not up to par with the so-called world standard. Yes, Europe has the best leagues and the best players, but then not all of Europe is that difficult for us to get into.
So then I wanna turn this around for the group then. So how we're saying that European teams look for certain attributes. Are we doing ourselves a disservice as Africa then by going because I'm hearing you guys say level a lot, like it's a higher level, things like that. Are we then doing ourselves a disservice by saying just because Tembazwane can't play, let's say, I'm just going to use his name, just because Tembazwane can't play a European game, all of a sudden he's not at the level of Europe? Are we doing ourselves a disservice? When Hugo Bruce comes in and says, maybe a teenager from here doesn't have this and a teenager from there doesn't have this, he's European. So what if we were to focus on our own game, let's say? Do you think that level-wise, how would we get that level where we measure it?
What? Can I just quickly answer because it's on the tip of my tongue, OT. You know what? It's not always the case where you can say Europeans are better than African players. My prime example of this is Mohamed Abu Trika. Mohamed Abu Trika used to play for Al Ahly in Egypt, and the most successful Egypt team, I think, at that period, they won 2 AFCONs with him, and then Al Ahly, I don't know how many CAF Champions League they won, but quite a lot. I remember even in Madrid, apparently at some point had a blank checkbook for Al Ahly saying that they wanted Abu Trika at all costs, but he chose to stay. So doesn't mean that he was not at the elite level. I mean, if he could be seen by a club like him, Real Madrid, that he can fit Real Madrid, that should tell you that there are some players at a level that is really high. That is really high within the continent. So for me,
Nto,
yes.
do you believe that?
No, Abu Trika. For Abu Trika, definitely I do believe that because he conquered
Wait,
Africa with.
I just want to ask this question, and I won't open a dialogue. I'm sorry, Mr. OT. You believe that Real Madrid had a blank check for Abu Trika and he turned it down?
Man.
No, but that's saying go media with Abu Trika, they wanted him at all costs because he was dominating.
To be fair, okay, I don't know if Real Madrid, but to be fair, Abu Trika said he never wanted to leave Europe. So I never wanted to leave Egypt. So whatever offer came in, he was like, nah, I don't. He vehemently didn't want to leave. I think it was for religious reasons or something like that. But he was like, no, I don't want to leave Africa at all.
Can
like
I say
he was the one.
I say this to Kuto. Guys, we must understand that the Arabs are not as fascinated about Europe as us down here. You know, like the Arabs just prefer staying there. They're not like how many Arabs have been in Europe. You know, just give me an Arab that.
Even the Al Ahly team, when Egypt was dominating everybody, there was mostly local guys, and those guys, I can imagine they could have gone anywhere in Europe if they wanted to. I guess I don't know.
Is it you?
It happened also to us, man. It also happens in Abu Shabalala and Abu Kule. They never wanted to get off to corporate because they were getting paid nice. Yes, Abu Shabalala, they were getting paid nice. That's why.
But let's stay on the point, guys. Let's stay on the point. The question that I was asking is very simple. Is it a case then that siyazi ukuthi, let's say in South Africa we play like this, simnandi sifuna abantu babemnandi, we want them to be fast, we want them to do 1, 2 and 3, right? Is there a world where as South Africans, let's say as an example, we go, yazini guys, abo Bruce, abo Jose, abo Banbani, we don't want you guys here because the football that you guys are trying to play and attribute to our players is not our players. And we are going to develop our football as is for us, to our strengths and attributes, to a point where we can compete. Now, that's why I'm asking Guti, it feels as though on the one hand we're saying Europe is better, but on the other hand we're saying that a lot of our players will not fit that side. So are we shooting ourselves in the foot? Are we writing an exam for something we don't know and didn't study for and basing our value off of that?
Yes, can I please jump in? First of all,
let me go Kumo and then Ronnie.
Okay, thank you for the platform. The fact that Ngezana wasn't making it here in SA, but he's rather thriving to Europe, it says a lot. It says what our standards are high compared to the one in Europe. And also the measurement of this club World Cup, I don't think it's a fair comparison. I can also say World Cup and stuff, because Europe has this tendency of making its clubs and countries easier for them to qualify a good World Cup, and especially look at the Club World Cup, because a team like your Liverpool or Manchester City, they win the Champions League and they come and play 2 games, whereby teams like us from Africa have to pay 3 or 4 games. And obviously in a speak of a week or 2 weeks, it's difficult because you play games, you've been playing at home in the league, you'll be playing cup games, and now also you have to compete and play 1 more game or 2 more games more. Then you are expected to actually beat a team, I'm going to use this quote, that is well rested for the club title, world title. So also, based on that, I don't think it's okay. And also with soccer AFCON, a lot of teams, especially from the SADC regions, see your SADC region see himself, like
Angola. Violence.
Let me keep quiet.
we saw how impressive Namibia was, and I was like, yeah, those are products from the PSL. So everything was going well. We saw so many teams draw with these big teams. I want big teams in Africa, but when it came to us, yeah, something happened. But even having said that, like our team was nice. We saw Hore, there's quality here in the PSL, and we were playing against people like people from Europe, whatever, the third tier or second tier. But the point remained, Hore, the PSL and its players and some teams from the PSL playing for the Zambian stuff really showed their class more AFCON, and we still see quality from people that went through the PSL system. So I think Europe is a beast when it comes to marketing, is a beast when it comes to competition. So that's the only thing if you want to get it different compared to Africa. If we all competed on the same level of funding and everything else, not all one or actually name, and we've got a good thing going on here in PSL.
Okay. Kana Kitse Maronza.
Yes, how are you, man? Hey,
Hey, sharp Maronza, man.
No, I mean, guys, there's no, I feel Africa, we have the best, we have the best. The only thing is that if now we sit down and check, when you go to FIFA and we check how FIFA, they treat other countries when it comes to many things, I don't have to point, but many things that FIFA, they're doing it wrong, Europe is Europe because they are there, they've been treated special and all that. But if we sit and look, let's take France for example. Let's take France for example. How many players are in France which are from Africa? How many players are from Germany which are playing there? How many in Belgium themselves? How many players are from Africa which are playing there? So, guys, if we look at it, it's only that FIFA is running soccer the way they like. They are not running it fairly in all that. They are not fair, And
can I come in?
Hence,
I think guys might be
I'm getting some.
Oh, okay.
It's yeah.
Yeah, come on, okay.
No, the way they're running it, right? I'm still coming to us as Safa, the way we're running football is wrong, we're not proper. Even in Africa, everywhere. Look, Africa before elections, for any organization for soccer, they have to go to court. For what? Because there's things which are involved. So hence FIFA, when you look at Africa, they see people who are hungry and all that, power hungry, everything is there. But if Africa was standing together to say, we will run our own football and we will run it the way we want, and FIFA come down, make your own rules, but if the sponsors, this is how we're going to do it. Why every sponsor has to pass through, guys, if you can sit down and look at everything about sponsors, you'll see why Africa is like this today. The very same guy from Europe, they come and sponsor down here because they're destroying down here, then feeding up. All those things. There's so many things. There's so many in Africa which lead to whatever is happening. There's so many politics. Yeah, there's so many things I don't want to mention, but you can answer put manje. But that is my take on this one.
Okay. I mean, okay.
Can I jump after
guys,
Theo?
Yeah. How's after Theo?
Okay. Guys, there's something that I think we forget, which is the term Messiah is survival of the fittest. It's either you adapt or die. These guys, most of the guys, the Umarons are Kulmangazo, they are developed in those countries. They are not born playing soccer. They were born not knowing soccer. They were developed. They were taught soccer in those countries. So now, we are not doing justice to them. I remember in the Bagamba when people were coming saying, "No, we're stealing players from them," and he came and he said, "No, I'm from France. Based on the fact that I was developed here, I grew up here, and all of it. So that alone, I think it gives you a statement. And something that I want to
Yay!
that is very
What's happening?
so it can't be tracked. One thing that I want to allude to as I'm still saying. Yeah, well, Mr. OT, I think I love what Kumu just said. You know, the marketing level. They are saying Europe is very big. It's very, very, very well done. And that alone, I don't think it then puts us in an off position to say, no, Europe, they are stealing players or they are the best. No. The only thing that I noticed, 90% of the players that go and adapt that side, they become a beast that side. You look at Pesitao, guys, for some time. Pesitao, he was our star. We need to be honest. Pesitao, I thought he was going to make it easy that side. He got there, he couldn't adapt. You look at Salah. Salah went to Chelsea at a young age. He's struggling. Then he kept on going back and forth. Liverpool took him, and now he's a star in Europe. We cannot then come and say standards are high. No, I'm saying the level of competition is what is high. And the marketing is what makes Europe to be the best, because every player wants to compete with the best. Not that our players here or our leagues are not the best, they are the best, but the adaptation of them, of the players that are leaving our leagues. Look at Tony, for an example. When Tony left, 90% of us were like, he's going to make it out there because he was a star here. And then when Tony comes back, at some point you could see Tony still got it, you understand? If Tony can go abroad and fail, Zungu goes abroad and fail, and they come back and we're like, but we still see something. That does not mean that our league is poor. It means them adapting is a challenge. You understand? Ungezane went to that team. He adapted to Europe style, and he's a beast in that. That's why they want him. Now, that does not mean that they have a better standard or no, but the competition and the adaptation of our
But then Theo, on that point,
I can ask you a question.
Yeah, just before Agent, but then Theo, here's my thing. So again, we are speaking about the adaptation to European football, and we're still referring to European football as the best. Say money aside.
Because of the marketing.
Say money aside. Would there ever be a situation where African teams go to Europe and say, we're bringing him to our league? You get what I mean? And then are we again just in our heads as well going, guys, you have to go that side, and Dolly has to go and try that side, even though Dolly, we know, doesn't play that football.
Look at Mfundo Villaras, Mr. Uti. Look at Abo Squama. Look at Abo Jabu. Oh, nice example. Jabu Pule. He was a star here. He got there. Okay, let's put that thing off the pitch aside. I think he was doing good. But look at Neymar. At the young age, Neymar was doing things in Santos. When he got that side, he made that like a mockery. He got to. He was even. I remember one time when they tell him you must step dribbling. You understand? Because you're gonna bring and players' careers. That alone tells you, is the adaptation that makes a difference. He went to Paris. He was the best PSG. I'm saying the adaptation is what makes a difference. Our players, look at Upinar, guys. I'm not saying they don't want us to do it, tackle, dance, or whatever, but look at the adaptation of Upinar. He was still doing those things with everything, but scoring goals. I remember, I think it was this guy, man, with Paris. I forgot his name. He said, I remember he put in this guy, man. He put him in second half, and then he took him out time because he took the ball all back in Tamin, and then he substituted him immediately. The guy was sitting on the bench. He was sitting on the bench waiting at and he said, do something progressively. We are winning 1-0. If this guy scores 1-1, and you doing that does not make any difference. My point is, if they go abroad, the standard on its own has already been set by the players that have went there. You understand? You cannot tell me between Neymar dribbling 5 players and scoring a goal. You dribbling 2 players and then telling with the ball and going back, I'm going to compare you with Neymar and say your standard is the same. That's my point. My point is we are. I don't want to use that term. It's like we are delusionally trying to make Europe to adapt to how we want them to play, instead of us adapting, because we know that Europe is producing a lot of stars. If then we can go there and our players become stars, they have money, your Salas, your Drogba, your the Cameroon, Eto. You remember how Eto was in Barcelona? In some, he was the beast, you understand? That alone, I think, earned him a signature to say, He's not he's not a South African, he's not a European player, he's an African player, but he has an element that our players don't have. That's why we took him. Not that they are saying he's weak or whatever. He adapted to the style of play. That's right. Our players want to go there and don't adapt. That's my problem.
I want to bring in Agent. Agent, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that is it a case of adaptability, or is just that we are a spoiled nation, we're an impatient nation?
Before you answer,
I think
those there, he tried against to after a long spell, and he's not a regular, and it's like, I would rather go to Al Ali, but look at Salah failed at Chelsea, goes to Roma, and then comes back to Liverpool, and I can give many examples of players like that, where it's either of the field issues, or it's the lack of patience. If you look at the players that made it from us this side, are players with character and personality and behavior otherwise. People who are coachable. Hence, I feel like a player like Ngeza, and as much as I don't think he's that good, but I feel like he can make it and make it more than Opes did, just because of that.
I can tell you why, Agent. I can tell you why. Remember what was the JJO coach, even John Obi Mikel, what they said? They said,
yes,
you South Africans are lucky because you've got a league that you can get paid very well with and you can play in, right? They don't have an option. I can't go back to Nigeria. You know what I mean? Like, okay, Salah aside, because Egypt is okay. I can't go back that side. I have to go and play and make it that side. And I feel like Abong Gezana sadly probably feels that, good guys, I can't go back to SA. Abangfundi. They never wanted me.
Can I jump on that one? Can I jump on that one really quick, and OT? Can I jump on that one real quick? You know what John Obi said is very 100% correct. I was watching this on TikTok. The Nigerian who was reviewing the South African team going to the AFCON. What he said was, South Africans are very comfortable. A move abroad for them is about expanding their CV. It's not about survival. So South Africa, our league compared to other leagues in Africa is one of the best, if not the best. Based on infrastructure and the pay. We can say that a young boys plays better than Kaizer Chiefs and so forth, but then the structure of our league is much better than the others in Africa. So when it comes to our players not making it compared to other countries, you look at Zungu. Zungu knew that when he came back here, he was gonna find a team. It was not gonna be hard for him. The same thing with yes, and the same thing with Dolly. If you remember, look at Andy Lejani. He didn't make it at KVW or the team he was playing in. Which team picked him up? The best team in South Africa. So our players moving abroad, for them, it's like, oh, finally. But then it's not a thing that I must move. So the quality of that's when we start questioning whether we have quality or not. Because if you're comfortable, there's no need to improve.
I want to bring in
just to further add
question.
Okay, I want to go to Mto because Mto had asked before. Then I'll go to your Agent.
Yeah, just to add before I go to the point I wanted to make. PSL, before it became so commercially successful, a lot of our players were going overseas. So a lot of our players were going overseas. Penny Makata, I think, who Cape Town Spurs for one season, Sean Bartlett 1 season, something like that, before they went overseas. So that tells you that at that time it was not comfortable to play in the PSL. They needed to go. So now we have a lot of retained soldiers, Botoli, Bozungu, so it's bad now. I mean, because there's that money now in the PSL that was not there in the past. So it's true what these Nigerian former players are saying about. I mean, in Nigeria, Nigerian football actually, local football, yeah, it contributes to their GDP. I think it was number 3 or number 4, because they export a lot of players out to Europe or wherever. Even in South Africa, we've got quite a few. I mean, go national team, yeah, but no goalkeeper, United. So, so you know what I mean. So they export a lot of their talent out because I mean, really, they're not paying that much in their leagues and all of that. So I think they are not even in the top 10 good league in terms of paying, if I remember well. So that should also count as a factor. So our players, they don't have that mindset to go and make it out there. Then when they get there, but want to take a she's outside, let me go dominate where I've been dominating all of this time. So that's part of the some of the things that are wrong with the current group of players. Not to say good, but it's a must that you must go to Europe. But if you decide to go to Europe, then you must really fight for your place there. So that's what I'm saying.
But I also feel like and before I go to agent, I also feel like there's a problem here. And my problem is that, before I could watch EPL, we didn't have DSTV. Before I could watch EPL, I was watching PSL. And guys, PSL had goals, PSL had good defending, PSL had good wingers, what, everything you could ask for. And it's probably why Abopini were going so early. But there's this idea that African football, South African football, for example, South African football is one-dimensional and everybody wants to dribble and everybody. I really feel as though, guys, for me personally, even now we all know and all of that stuff, and we have a complete football, right? My issue is that we're taking that complete football that we know from Kokasi or wherever, and instead of developing that way, we're saying to 70 or 80% of the players that are playing there that, guys, you will never play like Uchavi. You get what I mean? Chavi never has to grade himself versus you. But we grade our players versus a style of football, a play, a different philosophy, and then we call it better that side. But I'll come to that.
Mr. Ochi, just quickly, I want to say this about our style of play. I mean, we do have a lot of players with flair. I mean, look at the career of JJ Okocha. JJ Okocha had a lot of flair. Like, he would dribble, but he was progressive. The whole Bayer Leverkusen defense, and he scored a goal. There was a final result. There was an outcome out of that dribbling. Now South Africa, Zongo so trying a bola guy 10 bars of everybody. That's not
what I'm saying is that it Leonto, because we used to watch football. Leslie Manetela could score 20 goals. And Besuma could go 35. While having Thabo Moki, who dribbles a lot in the middle, while having Abos Karango Bese and all those people.
But honestly, to answer your question, Shoes Mushe was that kind of a player. They got Rebula, but the guy Pambil.
That's what I'm saying, Guti. Where does that idea come from? Because Nati, when you watch European football, it's not like they're playing 20 chances, 20 goals. Every time they go forward, it's clinical, it's whatever. Orica lose the ball and all of that stuff. But it feels as though what we've done is, and maybe it's even infiltrated the way we actually play, but what we've done is to go, hi guys, but we used to watch football that was complete with those dribblers and all those people. Is there a case, Guti, we're then going, Europe, they play tiki-taka, therefore that is the standard, and because Uskara, Ushai 360 guy, now it's like, everybody throws it. When Skara was hitting post, do you get what I mean, for example? But I don't want to say too much. Agent, you wanted to say something?
I wanted to say, I think your question, is a very relevant question. I wanted to stay on it. I think what your question is saying, the way I see it, from my point of view, is why can't we do what the allies of this world do? They don't mind going to EPL and say, we want you, come here, and the player comes, and I think it comes back to how we see ourselves as blacks, I think we see ourselves as inferior, as kids of a lesser god, because look at it, how many, it's very rare to find an Egyptian having a European nickname, like with us, our nicknames, we call ourselves Messi, stuff like that, so we worship those guys, to be fair, just besides the financial package, but I wish we could get to the Al Ali level and the pyramids. It's not even Al Ali, it's even pyramids, they took pyramids took what is that guy the number 10 that you're talking about that was playing Aston Villa, Fati, is that Fati, so those guys are able to plug players from Europe. I just feel like besides the financial package, we're just not doing enough as a nation and look down on it.
Well, Adrian, the point I was trying to make with that one is, if we are saying that European football is 1, 2, 3, 4, and our football is A, B, C, D, right? I have the sense that we are then automatically saying that 1, 2, 3, 4 is better, instead of going, you know what, guys, maybe we can develop A, B, C, D to be at a level that can rival that one. You get what I mean? Like where you go, where we go, we play a specific type of football. I'd love to see a point where, those outcasts from Europe, the guys who are very good, but then it's like, no, he's too skillful, he does too much. Would there be a point where African teams could go, Yazdini boy, they don't understand you. Come this side. As Europe, money aside, as you guys are saying Europe is doing with Africans, they don't appreciate you because you play more of European football. We're going to bring you in here, right? Would we ever, money aside, would we ever look at ourselves and have a degree of love for ourselves where we could look at Europe and say, I want to bring him to Chiefs. Sundowns, Allende, maybe Allende wasn't, I don't know if Allende was wanted in Europe, I don't know, I can't tell you that. But Sundowns was like, he plays Brazilian, or he plays our way. I'm going to go fetch him.
Not in my lifetime, but maybe in the lifetime of my grandkids, eh?
But can we look at ourselves that way, Agent? Because I feel like there's a condescending that we do to ourselves. We look down on ourselves too.
We can achieve that. We can achieve that. We can achieve that. Didn't we bring Lukovic too? Didn't we bring Lukovic to Chiefs? We bought Lukovic. There are a number of European players who are playing, who played or are still playing in South Africa,
including the Cape Town Spurs goalkeeper.
We can do that. But it's a matter of understanding whether, what we cannot shy away from is that our leagues need to improve in a certain way. Structure and other things that are attractive to other players. Europe is attractive. I mean, let me put Romania is attractive to players because of they have their things in orders, compared to South Africa.
Man, that's a gateway, that thing, man.
It's a gateway, but then again, if you compare it to the infrastructures of it, their things are in order. So for us to say we can attract them, we have been attracting European players to South Africa, right? But then for us, if you want to attract players who are playing in the EPL, and Nottingham Forest player to say, you know what, you're not getting game time in England, come to South Africa. There are things we must do to attract those players. We speak about the South American leagues. You look at the Brazilian league, you look at the Argentinian league, you look at how they are playing, the quality of their football. But it's not attractive for me to leave South Africa and go to South America. I would rather go to Europe where things I believe are in a better position. It's a matter of attraction.
Look at Bernard Parker. Remember, he went to Serbia and he was like, guys, I didn't get paid. I wasn't getting paid. I wasn't, but Serbia came calling and I went.
It's also the idea that, what I was saying earlier, just because of it's Europe, not necessarily everything about it is perfect, but then there are some things that must be in order. It's also a gateway to play in Serbian leagues and other leagues, But then for us to really attract those big players, we have to be in order.
Let me let in Umalume Kutso quickly. I'm going to come because he had his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find a way with Nami Nkulu. But anyway, Mr. Oti, you asked a question, but as I was about to answer you, you answered yourself. We also do pick players who are attractive to us as South Africans. May not be from Europe, but from the rest of the world. We have players. And some players who are not in line with us have failed the pool when we've sent them packing. It does not mean they're not good. You can understand? The two Brazilians are very much aligned with South African football. That is Allende as well as Serino. They describe the desired South African football that the South African people love. But unfortunately, if you want to conquer the world, you can't have too many people like that. You understand? You can't have too many short people on the pitch. The strength will come to the fore. You understand? So Abu Allende and Serino are something that we love in SA. We love that type of play in SA. You understand? Not necessarily Ugutsitina as his bony, as his rate. But when it comes to a specific type of play, one understand?
Yeah.
So, so I just wanted to also point that specific trait out. But also, you asked about, I'm not the only one, what you asked about Europe and Africa. I just want to say, in World Cup, how many African teams have reached the semi-finals of World Cup?
One. Two. Yeah, two.
One semi-final one.
Oh, semi-final one. Yeah, Ghana got knocked out where quarter, ne?
Yeah.
Uruguay. Oh, okay, yeah.
Quarter final.
In a manner that I felt they should have qualified, but the law was not like that time. But it's fine. That very team that qualified for a semi-final, they don't really play African brand.
Yes.
And you can't blame them because they don't know the African brand. Half of that team, if not all of them, grew up in Europe.
Yes. Yeah.
They are even maybe the coach also lived in Europe for the longest time. You understand? So it shows a specific brand of football is very radioactive when it comes to international football. Like,
but then Malume Kutso, you and I, okay, we agree on some things in terms of our football. I remember a Brazilian team that won plenty of World Cups, and they were not playing a European brand. In fact, Germany had a way to play. South America, the Brazil had a way to play. There were styles. My question then becomes again, are we not saying that, my fear, and when you talk about short players, I feel as though we are looking at the quote-unquote short players and saying, because the bar is Europe and the Europeans are tall and what, we cannot create a style of play that suits you guys. So, for example, Barcelona at the height of their stuff, Xavi small, Iniesta small, Messi small, David Villa was playing, he was small, Bo Pedro came in small, Bo Mangman small. And of course, then they had Bo Alves, they had people maybe at the back. Even Puyol wasn't that tall. But they crafted a style of play where they went, okay, guys, Ngoba Messi, I can't ask him to header like Peter Crouch. Let's create a style of play and get a play for ourselves that works to the top for ourselves. And I'm asking that of South Africa. If Buyekasi, Sonke Simnandi senza so, why then ask Abomnandi Labo 80%, right? And say, yeah, 80% and you're not going to be able to play because our bar is that we need tall players. At what point then, and is it maybe an attitude problem where we go, yes, in South Africa, this is what you have. Your players are short, right? Figure out a way that more players can play in this, build structures, build administrations that can make the best out of these guys. And I want to say it at the point of Africa in a whole, right? Where it feels again that we are literally grading ourselves by Europe. And Europe doesn't bother to grade itself by us because they focus on what they are good at. You get what I mean? They've done it, and obviously UEFA has bent the rules and things like that. Will it be a situation ever where we do that, Malume Kutsu? And maybe is it possible if we had the proper administration and structures to get our football to levels where we could go to a World Cup and play? Or do we have to always look at Europe?
Mr. Uti, when you look at Timbers one, do you see a relatively short player or average height?
Average South Africa tall, average South Africa short elsewhere.
Yeah, I understand. So when we mention short players in SA, it's very extreme. Our Timbers one is probably Messi's height. The midget Messi. The Messi was not midget. He's probably Timbers one is height. So if we're gonna use Sticks at Barcelona, who were very tall in the right places with Abo Sergio, with Abo PK, and Alves is not short by any stretch of imagination, guys.
Alves
is not short.
Alves. Alves.
Who looks Messi in the eyes when they hug each other?
Alves is not
Have you
short,
seen?
but
Have you seen that anything?
No, but it's fine. Let's not dwell on that one. And Kanakiman Carlos Puyol, very stocky and strong and very great. Not just good, but great in the game.
Yeah.
So to confuse that and try and fit it in the South African picture is missing the picture.
No, Malume Kutso. What I was saying.
Hear me out. South Africa has a way of playing. However, South African attitude has a way of missing the important things. You understand? South Africa has never been really a skillful team. The entire team with doing
yes.
No. We've been very tall, and we've short players were always an exception. You had to be extremely good. You were not the norm. You understand? You had to be extremely good. Like our 16V, our Eric Tintla, Amatoda. Those are not boys. Those are men, real men. Properly built. You understand? So, Konaman, we decided to miss the point and think we play about football, about squam. What an insult to South African football. Nowhere in the history of South African football have we had to talk about our identity. This South African football. But somehow we convinced ourselves with that scarcity football.
And that's what I was saying. Remember what I said when I said, Guti, when we were watching football, before you could watch EPL, people are making it seem as though it was just skillful people. I said that, I don't know when, but I said that now.
No, I was listening to
you. Get me? So
I'm like, you give Doctor the ball. He doesn't really know what to do with it for him to be fancy. But send the man to him, and he will show you, Guti. This is what I do when I take after football. I want to go fight you. You start seeing, this guy, he's an eliminator.
Abutukuzo, can I ask you something?
Okay.
Well, I hear what you're saying. Can you please tell me, we have Brazilian football, German football. What is South African football if it's not skill?
Okay.
Can I ask you something? Okay.
Okay.
No, I wanted to say, is Zwane playing East African football?
Okay. But Madam Speaker, you're going to have to protect me here.
I'll protect you, but sorry, Madam Speaker.
You're on the firing line, Baba. Protect you for what?
But anyway, Utembas want to play South African football. You eliminate with a purpose. You look good with a purpose. You don't just do it because Gumnand. When I look at the two young stars, sorry to take it to them and not to use them or tarnish anyone. Between them to Duzi, no Ratom. Ratom plays what we call South African football. He will do the
that's true.
With the purpose. Now Mumobi is charging at me. I'm gonna flick this ball in the air. It's gonna look so good. But the purpose was never to impress the crowd, but only to eliminate Mumobi Ahambengebu. You understand? Not and then Umtu will be alone in the corner and decide to wipe his sweat. You understand? That too is a different expression, but that is not necessarily South African football. It has to be with a purpose. Unless if you wanted to activate a crowd, which that also is part of South African football. So to answer you would be that.
And that's why Malume Kuto, just to jump in with you there, that's why I said, for me, tell me the examples when people say to me that we dribble and do whatever, great. Tell me the examples of the players that do that. You get me? Because we don't have that many players who are dribbling for no reason or whatever. When we're being honest with ourselves. And even at the height of South African football, it wasn't just that. At the height of South African football, you had a bunch of other people that were doing jobs. Nasekasi. Malume Kutu, what do you do? Somebody who plays for Kasi. We play a 4-4-2. What happened? No, before you come in, we play a 4-4-2, or that's what people used to play. Malume Kutu, can you tell me, what is the makeup of the two central midfielders? What is it normally?
Mr. Oti, that's where I want to learn. That's where I want to learn. When we talk about Brazilian football, when we talk about South American football and South African football, because it's very much similar, people get confused and fixated on the Neymars and the
Thank you.
the Messi.
Yeah.
But they forget that there's a Mascherano, there's a Beto Silva, there's a Lita Buthelezi, who are integral to that system, who come in Kapokotele Amazembe. There's an Eric Tintler, there's a Kanakimang, who's that boy, that guy, who's Messi's bodyguard.
Oh, yeah, I'm forgetting his name, but yeah.
In all of those teams, you will find that almost the entire team is made up of those people, the successful team. And that maybe 3 would be your cream de la creams doing the nice things. But the makeup of the team is workmanlike. It is hard hitting. We saw when you had to plan for Argentina, you would think with Imelec playing Messi. But everyone else is running like crazy. Everyone else is leaving blood on the field. They sweating buckets. They in your pocket. They in your face. In Brazil, if you go back in history, Brazil is actually known for its cartoon. In as much as you might think Brazil is known for samba, it's cartoon Brazil sivulelwe. You understand? You come anywhere near E6, for example, Casemiro. Casemiro is very good technically, but it's a nonsense in front of him. You will see with the hospital, it's very close. You understand? So I feel like that's the part that we miss when we describe South African football. We forget that Abo Eric Tindler, we forget that Abo Linda Buteles are the makeup of South African football, and we focus on the Cream.
I don't know. Theo, wanted to say something?
Okay.
So, I'll go Theo, Agent Hauser.
And as funny enough, I wanted to say exactly the very same thing about people saying we are delusional about a lot of things, guys. For me, I never said Europe plays better than us. The problem is we don't want to adapt to color, and also we want to keep on contemplating and saying we're going to compete with Europe. If Excel, you have a Neymar. I made an example of Neymar for a reason. Now, Neymar is going to no longer play for Brazil as time goes on. You have a Vinicius Junior, who is an extension of Neymar. You understand? In Brazil, there's something that they're doing very, very well. Vinicius Junior, even in Europe, they were saying he's very skillful, he's creative, but he's missing chances. But if you check when he plays in Brazil, you wouldn't even tell that he's that much of a star based on those players, because the way he plays is different from Europe. In Europe, he's given a platform and say, showcase yourself, score. But there, they don't care about scoring. They don't care about him scoring. They just care about him creating chances for the strikers to score. My problem with us is that we are so much moving away from our way of playing, which is nearly Brazil-like. Because I remember, there was even a long time ago, when they say South Africa plays like Brazil. You understand? Or I remember Brazil plays like South Africa. That's why about talks in 1996, they were able to compete with them, because it was more similar, like the same thing. My problem with us now is the fact that we are bringing a European coach. That coach, when he gets here, guys, there's no way Man Baxter is going to go to South Africa and he's going to say, Tembazwane, show me 360 10. No. When he gets there, I want you to work hard. I want you to run. Multiple baller, you look forward, you don't look backward, you don't look a short pass. You understand? Because he's telling him this is how I want you to play. So when you bring about Clive Barker, they would look at Doctor and be like, yo, Doctor is not going to tell you the ball. He's going to look at, okay, if you Masinga is a fast runner, then I'm going to put the high ball. He's going to look at a certain player and be like, man, this one is slow. Songs on passing ball like you understand. Look at how they were playing back then. Look how we're playing now. There's a big gap. Hence, that's why I'm saying, Mina, it's not like Europe is better than our ball. I'm saying, Tina, we are failing to adapt to understand what it's no longer about just skills now. It's about creating chances. Utemba Zwane, I'm going to make an example with him. Utemba Zwane does score goals, you understand? And him scoring goals makes him a better player to say he can create and score. But if Utemba Zwane does not score goals, then you're going to sit down and be like, is he a great player anyway? You understand? Lokuyaqala bekuba ne-double six for a reason. Bekunomuntu ekwazi ukuthi uyakapa. Kube khona lokwazi ukuthi uprogress ibhola. Manje thina sesifuna boyi-2 na kungabikho umuntu okapayo boyi-2 aba-progress ibhola. And that's why you look at Sundowns play, uRulani was straightforward that he wants to adapt European style. That's why he doesn't have a play kapayo. Finish like a 6, a kapa and straight, you understand? But he has turned Mukwena to be like an influencer, a progressive player, who Alende, they are all doing that. Hence, then he pushes a player like Bomvala to come like a 6, a shy tool. But it's not like he's running away from what he knows about the Mutoda in the middle, which is Ukapa. But Tina, now we want to change the dimension and say, no, we don't want to play Zokapa. Sitole is going to be creative. Umkwena is going to be creative. Hence, that's why I'm saying the progression of our football is not like it's not better, but it's going backwards because we are adapting things that we do not even have a platform for. It makes sense. You look at a player like Pesitao, guys. Pesitao is not a bad player. Pesitao, my problem with him is when he was in Europe, the reason why I'm saying he was not adapting enough. Pesitao can liken him to Salah, but Salah spent enough time in Europe to know there are certain times when you have a ball you are corner. That's why Pesitao, they even say, he tell you he's going to Salah, he's going to minus a player, cut him, top corner. Pesitao will want to let the player, teach him economy, and then you run across that, sometimes you have to just go on your own, you understand? Those things alone, they show you, it's not like you're not going forward, but we're not learning enough to put also our style of play in the package and then do something with it.
But then Theo, my issue with that was that previously, and the reason why I asked the question is, for me, it felt like we were saying that the European way is automatically better, and that our players have to assimilate to that because that is the level. And that's why I asked the question, Guti, will we ever get to a point as a continent, as South Africa, I'll speak about South Africa, would we ever get to a point where even just in our minds, where we can say, yes, guys, lentona le eshay 360 lap. I need to get lentona leo or our football to a level where I don't need to be doing tiki-taka and those European things, right? Where our own football can stand up to there. That's what I was asking, because this whole conversation, we've literally all just been saying that, no, you must go to Europe, and then in Europe, there's competition, and it's better, and whatnot. But it's like, guys, can we get that style of play will kick out 50% of the players from South Africa. You get what I mean? And now,
for you to be the best of the best, you must compete with the best of the. Like I wanted to also
how are they the best? How many Turkish teams play in the UCL? How many Turkish teams play in the UCL? How many different teams have played Club World Cup? Why are these bars for us, but they're not bars for Europe?
No, but
can I ask a question? You see Messi, guys. Let me just make an example of this and then you talk. Messi, when he got to Barcelona, I remember Abramovich even said he was actually angry because the team was built around Messi. It's not like Tiki-Taka was just for Barcelona. It was to accommodate how Messi plays. Messi will take the ball. He will want to just go what Neymar was doing, run through the players. I understand. That alone, you as a player, you are a Pesitao, for an example. If you have a different element than that of Messi, you need to enforce it in your own team. I'll make an example, Mosbuso Zuma. That's why they even built him a statue that country where he was playing. It's because they call him Zuru or Zoo, whatever that name, because of he was enforcing how he plays. But you cannot go there and then just want to adapt and say, I'm going to learn what they are doing. No, enforce yourself while you are adapting in that style of play so that they can see your element, your fingerprint. But when he got here, this is him, and now he has improved in scoring goals. He's improved in Shamapola outside of the box, for an example, which is what they are known for in Europe. But we want to take a player and put him there and say, play how we play. That's not going to happen. And you are competing with players there that are average to 30 goals per season. You understand? A midfielder like the Brenner is scoring goals.
In their style of play, Besuma hit 40 goals.
Enforce yourself.
In South
That's what I'm saying. Enforce yourself.
Okay, Demto. Sorry. Theo, you just wanted to finish there.
Yeah, Besuma had the heart there. Don't forget. He had a cow that was feeding him. Hence, I'm saying, Guti, Chiefs had to adapt to how Besuma plays. He enforced his style of play to Chiefs. So we cannot now say he plays South Africa, Maliangale. He must adapt. I'm not saying he must adapt into totality and say do everything that they're saying you should do. No, show your fingerprint. That's why Neymar, when he went to Barcelona, you can still see the Neymar that was in Santos. That's my point.
I hear you. Let me bring it on to I hear you. I think my only thing with that is, again, I feel like we're going in one direction. So Messi never has to adapt to an African game. And if we were to go, Africa is the bar, Messi wouldn't be on the bar. You get what I mean? Like, or whoever, the European players that are good would not be on the bar.
Ask something on that. I want to ask something on that. Okay, no, let him to speak.
Yeah,
Okay. No, part of the problem why we are having even this debate so broadly, it's because our coaches, they look up to top European coaches. So, I mean, we've been teasing Murulani all of this time saying that he's a mini Pep. You know what I mean? It's going to be difficult to grow our local brand of football, our brand that we know, we actually understand, and to grow it if our top coaches are looking outside for inspiration, So that's part of why we're struggling with that idea. We don't know exactly where we are as South Africa now. Are we playing this? Because what often happens is that European football is now called modern football. They've also adapted quite a few things that we need to adapt our game, of course. That's all we need to do to bring it back. Yeah, so that's part of the problem, which we are looking up to them, and we are not really doing much for our own local brand of football.
Agent?
I wanted to ask a few questions, I think you should indulge me there and others there. Okay. I feel like one of the problems that we have is two things, is our legends, and clips. I think we said this on the group about watching clips of football players, not the whole game. There will be clips of Zayn Musa standing on the ball, but did he stand on the ball the entire game?
Yeah.
And I want to ask this simple question that, okay, Pirates, what I know Pirates does is they're a quick team. They go on the wing, they cross the ball, they score. They're the quickest team. I think before we talked about transitions and stuff like that, what I think Pirates are the masters of that, just that maybe we didn't have a term for it, for as long as I can remember. So I want to ask a question there, that how does Chiefs play? What does the Chiefs play?
Or currently, or
not currently. Just I can identify Sundowns play. I can identify Pirates play. Yes, not currently.
My people hate me. The helicopter for the last 10 years, the helicopter has been
before 10 years. Okay, before 10 years.
Before 10 years, I think it looked
Chiefs
similar.
Was taking.
Yeah, it looks similar, and it's going to sound weird to a way, but it looks similar to a Sundowns. Ted Dimitri understood that.
That's what I wanted.
Which
to get
Sundowns?
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Sundowns are being
But my point is, right? So Chiefs play this way, Sundowns play this way, right? Bafana play that way, just that we have different variations of the tiki-taka, I still feel like the South African way is playing the ball on the carpet, giving it to each other. You can add a sugar here and there, right? That one thing, that cha-cha, and then you move, that mbule thing, I still feel like we have that, just that our legends, for some weird reasons, they reminisce about the great moments that what is this guy? Shakes Kunwani was able to play a tap with the head, on the game, and not what can I say? To be fair on them, when you remember moments, you don't remember the 5 passes that Ukunwani and Doctor whoever give to each other. You gotta remember that Skazi flavor, So because of what legends are saying and because of the clips that we're seeing, we end up saying our style of play is showboating, because we're seeing clips of showboating. We're not seeing the actual game, how it turned out, And to be fair, I still think that Sundowns is still playing the South African way, And I think to defend Urulani, the reason why Urulani is able to coach at Kasi is I think he's trying to integrate the modern tactics with old tactics. Hence, Abumbule and Zwane and others are more freer than they were under Pizzo, So I just feel like our main problem is
Do you know what's funny,
the clips and legends.
You're gonna hate me for this, or people are gonna hate me for this, but I honestly just feel like a lot of the concepts that are in football are all the same. It's just that somebody put English over it and they called it modern football. That's why, for example, when we're on the stream watching the game, I've never done CAF licenses. I've never in my life done CAF licenses. I've never done coaching courses. But because we understand the game from watching it, it's all the same thing. It's just that one person is calling it gegenpressing and the other, you get what I mean? So I think there's also that element of it where, again, it feels as though we look down on ourselves in those things. Those elements have always existed in South African football. The only difference is that Europe knows to call it tiki-taka and plays Pep's face on top of it. You get what I mean? And that's what I think as well. For me, it's a mental thing, man. We look down on ourselves. How's that?
Yes, I wanted to conclude on say that. So, what we should understand with the South African play and the Brazilian play is, I don't think we've been as blistering and quick as the Brazilians. We've always played a much slower game, but still, the importance is the skill that we have. The Europeans don't have skill. We and the Brazilians have the skill. But what was this skill used for? Or maybe put it in other way is, how can we use our skill and reintegrate it into something which can work for us? The reason why you do a skill is, to get confidence. Some say to get confidence, and you need confidence in football. Some is to draw attention to you, to create space, So when I'm being marked by 3 players, like Shuffle will be marked by 3 players, the space is opening up, It achieves the same purpose as Williams inviting pressure on the defense to create a numerical advantage. It's the same concept. So I just feel like, to your question, we should find a way to make the youngsters and the players understand that you do a skill to make it productive,
And
when you put English to it, I feel like they'll understand it more if you put in English to it, like numerical advantage, what. That's what
I think even just the value of the skill. You think about it. Our coach Kokas used to tell us, your first move, you know why? He's never going to play the same way for the rest of the match. You know what I mean? It might not be a goal. It might not be an assist. It might not be something like that. But it is an advantage. The crowd goes crazy. Now it's lit for you for the rest of the match because now you don't know whether to attack me. Napa, the crowd has you. Napa. Those are also advantages. You get what I mean?
Exactly.
How's that?
I want to address this thing of style of playing. The way I see it is, why can't Africa or South Africa have its own do I say own style of play, or it's exactly what the Mto or I forgot his name. He said that our coaches are idolizing Europe. It's I believe we can. When I asked Malume Kuto, what is South African style of play? When you look at Germany, and it's still true to today. Germany are a very strong team when it comes to playing from the back, But then against Brazil, that if you attack too much, they're gonna hit you with a counter attack. That's what I'm asking about the style of play. But then you look at Bo Rulan. I've great respect for not Spain for Sundowns. The way they play, I can see it similar to the one I'm watching in Europe. We want to have a unison of football. When Europe says, guys, there's no need to play on the wings.
Hey, there's just some noise there.
How is that style of play successful in South Africa? That's the question. Then you look at the way the South Americans play. The South American they play the way we used to know Bo Ronaldinho, you look at Santos. They kind of have that element of, let's say I'm going to call it European football because they're the ones who keep on changing the standard when it comes to football. You look at that. You look at when was the semi their version of King Kef that was played in Europe because of I forgot which I think it's 2022 or 2021 when they went to Europe and to play that. And you look at how they were playing. It was a different kind of football compared to the one we are used to seeing between Real Madrid and Man City, those kind of things, So South Africa, I feel like we have to get the basics right of football. This is what Peter was crying about. You want to evolve as a team, but some players can do the most basic things. We can achieve a level of our own. We can have a level where we say this is South African football. This is how we play in CAF. Compared to saying that we're gonna copy gang and pressing. We're gonna copy the formation of Pep Guardiola, because if you remember, wingers at some point were the strongest. Were one of the strongest. Elements of the game. You knew that when you have a player who's gonna cross in the ball, it's finished. You're using your headers. But Puyol, that's what made.
Hey, how's that?
You look at both De Bruyne, but not De Bruyne. I mean, what's it? Grealish, Foden, all of them cutting inside. Why? European keeps changing the standard of their football. Now our coaches are going after that standard. That's why it always seems like African players are lacking. You come from a league where you are playing on the ground, 1-2, 1-2 wingers and all that. You go to Europe, their standard is very different. Why do we hold it to that high standard? Because that's where the money is. But then if you can also look, I implore you guys to just watch a couple of matches. Santos, Buenos Aires. You look at those teams, you will see the difference between European football and South American football. What's lacking in Africa is that our top teams want to copy European style. But then you look at where our strengths are. You look at where our strengths are as local teams. It's not on the same level as those teams. Sundowns, you see what effort it takes for Sundowns to play that kind of football. It takes money. You look at the things. It's working. I'm not fighting it. We're talking about a standard where we're saying that is Africa gonna get to a place where we call European players here and say, come play our kind of football. Our kind of football. Yeah, we must look at those strengths. We must look at our strengths as Africans or the PSL. We can't all copy the style of Europe. We must start breeding our own styles. And if our own styles is 4-4-2, a classic 4-4-2 with wingers and all that, let it be that. Can we compete against the rest of the world with that formation? That's the question.
How's that? Can you mind improvement on our style of play? Like, don't you think we should be able to attract things that work and bring in things that we feel like work for us, like not Casifleo, but skill into maybe a European thing that works. Clearly, it works for Sundowns and the PSL, but can we bring in more skillful players into a Sundown system to make it more South African? Because we see the advantages of the tiki-taka.
Let me go to Theo. Theo, you wanted to say something there?
Like, I hate saying this, but we need to say it. Guys, there's something very important about integration. I think like we cannot be holding Europe in a like carry like cyborg, like it's like we are chaining them saying, you guys are the ones that are confusing our style of play, are confusing our coaches. Every coach wants to develop, every coach wants to learn new things. I can make an example. Okay, I think it was around who's this guy, man, Alves, where you first, I think for me, it was the Abu Maikoni, where you see wingers going up to a point where they're the ones bringing crosses. And then certain teams started adapting to it. And it worked for certain teams, even African teams, South African teams, it worked. But we never complained. And then now, here's the Rulani who comes in and says, you know what, I don't want to have a strong number 6 there. I want a guy who can be mobile. I want a guy who can progress the ball. If you remember Mkwena, when he took him from Super Sport, Mkwena be a shy too, guys. He was in Vala times 2. But when he brought him in, he said, no, you know what, now I want you to develop, I want to improve yourself. I want you to improve. Now I want you to be able to do what is called link-up play. Don't just shy He brought in a guy like Allende. Look at how Allende complements him. Allende, he will switch places with him from time to time to more like what's the word? Release him to go forward, take shots, do those short passes. Bring Shaloni to the game. Than him being a Katsande, they're sitting there waiting for Guti. Let Mark Velanya. My problem with that mentality when I'm waiting, so we are then shifting our mind into one direction, saying the South African way was to play this way without understanding that what Steve Kompela said. I don't agree with Steve Kompela in most things, but what he said is very important. Is that modern football is not the European football, because I know we call it European football. About Neymar, they played in those systems. They are not European players. Messi played in that system. He's not a European player. The same way that Messi was playing Barcelona, PSG, is the same way Messi is playing Argentina, which is not like that much as such, but they are aggressive, but yet they're still using him as an element of saying you adopted something that such, bring it here home. My problem with us is we have a life loss. Let me make just this last example. Let me just make this one example. Can I make just this one last
just make
example?
that last point, then how they can come in.
Yeah, very short. You have a life loss. When you see him go Burnley, he's mostly playing in pockets, if you have noticed him. He's mostly on pockets. You hardly see him on the wing, he's mostly on pockets. You bring him here, you want to use him on the wing, you want to do a makopa on him. He's not like that. That's why in most cases you'll see him lost in the game. But use him at his strength, because he's your main target player. Look at what they did Nigeria on that game, Osman. They were busy playing long balls, and they were catching in Cote d'Ivoire. Why? Because it's his strength. They know that's how it does in Napoli. If we do not adapt to a player that we have brought into your team, then you're going to fail. Urulani is adapting to the players that he has, and he's using them to their strengths. Hence, that's why he's successful. So we cannot say now we cannot use that.
I think before
what you are saying is exactly what I'm saying. Oh, so what you're saying is exactly what I'm saying. That if you're gonna want a style of play, what I'm saying is that I understand that there's a way the global world is playing, but then how easily adaptable is that kind of play to a Chippa United, to a Richards Bay? That's why I'm not focusing on Sundowns. And what you're saying about Mokoena is exactly that. What are our player strengths? That's the question I was saying. I was putting forward when I was talking about having a style of play that is South African. What is Mokwena's strength? What is what's his name? Evidence Mahopa's strength. These guys, they have to adapt. I get that adaptation. You have to adapt where you're going. But then for the PSL, the style of play that the technical play that Rulani is doing, it's working for him. But then can TD Jakes adopt that standard and play it at a Chippa United? Can Richard Bay adopt that kind of play and play to their standard when we know that the quality of their players are not on the same level as those of a Sundowns, as those of players who are going abroad? The reason why, again, most players, they don't make it that side is because of their strengths and their weaknesses. We spoke about Ngeza and his strength. You know, it's he plays. He's a very solid. I want to say he's a solid center back. But then against the fast striker, Antoniana Tsejuan, it works against him. That's what I'm saying when I say, what is the South African style of play? Where we know our players play this way and that way. Adapting, you will do it when you go to those leagues. But when you are here, it's only, if we're being honest, look at the teams who tried to play technical football against Sundowns. They tried going pound for pound with Sundowns. What happened to those teams? You know, but then when the moment they start playing their way, you know, the fast football, the route one football, the helicopters football, you can see that the teams come alive. That's what I'm saying, you know. Not necessarily that I find a problem with modern football or anything. The question was, can we have a standard where we can say, I like how that the young boy from Burnley plays. Can he come into my system and fit into that system? You know, that's.
I think just to also, for me, there's a difference between progression and changing everything. So Barcelona has an idea. Johan Cruyff installed an idea at Barcelona whenever he installed it. And if we look at the progressions, Pep doesn't completely change the whole idea, but he steals here and there to progress the initial idea. I think that's the part where we sort of miss it sometimes, where it's like Pep didn't do something completely new. Shushan and piano is the same. Now we're saying, okay, what if you could do this as well? Or how do we do this? And a lot of that progression is based off of your needs at the time, but also what you're looking at the team at. My problem with us as Africans, for me, my problem with me about Africans is our changes aren't necessitated by what we need. It's necessitated by what we saw somewhere else. So if you know you've got a short player, instead of modeling your play on short players, you model your play on a tall striker. Then when you go to trials, there's 3,000 kids that can't header the ball. They're not tall. For example, I'm using it as an example. There's 1,000 people who are there. But because of what you've chosen that you saw for Europe, there's only 3 players that fit that style. And in Europe, conversely, the other way around, they've got 1,000 people, 800 of them play with the European quote-unquote style in mind. Let's say if that was it, a specific style in mind. And they've got 800 options for that style. And then 3 might not fit that thing. Tina, we're trying to fit square pegs into round holes most of the time. Agent, you wanted to say something?
I want to ask you a question, and it goes back to what I say, that I feel like our problems are legends, our problems fans, especially the fans from a certain village, but it's fine,
Hey, violent.
Because I think, I know you always say that fans have but fans have power, man. Like once you get started stabilizing, your coach has to go. You can but security is gonna come in and becomes a whole scenario when people might die, But the concept becomes, or the point that I wanted to make was, so a coach comes in and says, you know what? I feel like the best way to win is if I play long balls and bombard the area. It first is the legend say, that's not the Chiefs way. First are like, I don't like that style, what. I feel like as fans, we are failing to evolve and say, but is a different ball game. You can't always play the same way. You have to progress with the times, And I feel like we are fixated on a certain idea that we have to play a certain way, Like we have this figment of imagination that this is how a certain team has to play, and this is the good football, So I think to your point that you look at Menendop. Menendop played good football, just that you guys didn't appreciate it, just you guys didn't want it. You started to Zabalaz and throw him off the bus, So I think that's another problem I have with a modern day fan, if I can put it that way. That a modern day fan is also a huge stakeholder, and he's also refusing to evolve and take responsibility for his actions. Yeah.
But also, agent.
Can I add
Besides that, here's my issue with some of that statement there. My issue with some of the statement there is, I understand you wanting to install something new. I get it, but
Yes.
you have to. I don't know. You have to know who you're dealing with, but also you have to understand that you don't have time. What I'm hearing a lot of times today is coaches coming in and saying, you know what, as a coach, Mina, in the textbook, I saw Guti Sundowns is doing this. Therefore, I'm going to arrive at Kaizer Chiefs and I'm going to change everything, right? Cool, great. You're changing everything, but you need the results, right? And you need to understand. Check. You need the results. Ooh, you need results and protection. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
If Pizzo didn't win the league the following year, and he didn't win the league the day after that, and he didn't win the league the day after that, I can tell you for free, Sundowns fans would have been on top of him because you all were on top of him from day one. But it just so happened that Pizzo coupled the change, right, with results. And maybe, I don't know, I wasn't watching Sundowns at the time, maybe the way he changed it as well wasn't, like a, hey, cut! then we're doing something new from the get-go. Like, for example, Steve Compella wants to play out from the back. It's great. It's modern. He has all of his things. But if you're losing 8, 9, 10 games in a row or whatever, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but 8, 9, 10 games in a row, you can't then sit back and look at the fans and go, the fans are like, you get what I mean? That's where I'm like, I hear you, but the first coach is always going to have the hardest job.
I feel like we're going around in cycles, because the argument is you must work with what you have. If
But this is what I'm saying. But this is what I'm saying. Pizzo comes in and changes how you guys do everything, right? It's extremely hard. The fans will be we're on top of him, right? Now, Rulani, Mangoba, everybody that's come after him has built on those ideas that he put in. So now, when Rulani comes in as the third coach, nobody's really going crazy on him because what he's doing is not seen as a complete change of what has been done. Problem with Kaizer Chiefs is, if Middendorp did what Middendorp did, and the following coach was Middendorp-like, you get what I mean? And you take...
But you guys didn't want the Middendorp-like style.
No, but this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. They didn't want Middendorp. You guys didn't want Pizzo. Pizzo was protected and he won the following year. So if Middendorp, let's say, comes second this year, I was against the team leaving. I'm not going to lie to you. It didn't make sense for them Downs to fire him. But anyway, Middendorp comes in, he gets fired. The logical step is we bring in somebody who's like Middendorp so that we can continue on what Middendorp did, and maybe he wins because he's doing something similar. Problem with Chiefs is that we went from Middendorp and then we go to another coach that's different and another coach that's different, whereas Sundowns, Barcelona, Man City is probably going to do the same thing or has pretty much done the same thing. We're going to go, okay, Pizzo came in, Mangoba comes in and makes it a little bit better, Rulani comes in and makes it a little better, but the line is the same. As I noted with Tompo Kekana, at the core is the same as Jali, is the same as Mukwena in what the core thing that they need to do in the team, but they've stayed in the line. You get me, AJ? That's what I'm saying. That
Mr. Uti, you know what you're saying. If I remember correctly, when Peter came in, I'm just gonna give you an example of that. It's a funny one, but then when Peter came in, he chopped everything. But then at the time, where was Sundowns? It was not on top of, it was not on the top half or something like that.
They're almost relegated. He saved them.
So he had the backing, the financial backing, and he was able to do what he had to do. Now there's a theory that for a success for leadership transition, it takes about 3 years. You look at who followed Pizzo Musiman. It was his right hand man, And then right now, years after, 2-3 years after Pizzo has left, we are starting to see Rulani's identity. You remember a season after Pizzo left, when they were the three musketeers. People are like, oh, they're copying Pizzo, But then the philosophy was there because they started with Pizzo. Now here's an example of that. Arthur Zwane and Mulifinzeki. You see, they are not yielding results. They were not yielding results. But then if I were to ask you, Mutseki FC and Zwane, what's the difference? You know.
Yo, there's a bit, but
No,
yeah,
there was a big one.
there's a big difference, but yeah, go.
A big. Continue.
Yeah, but then to me it doesn't seem that different. I don't want to lie. The same Chiefs that was. You will tell me where I'm wrong. You will correct me. But then Tseki Ball and Zwane, to me it was not that different. It was the same Chiefs I saw last season into the new season. I'm being honest. I'm being honest. The moment I started seeing. Okay, go on. Tell me.
Let me make. I wanted to add something, but I'll come back to this point out. Guys, we must not forget that when you buy a player, Urulani mentioned it, that he profiles the player that he's going to use and he knows how he's going to use them. So when he brings you, he's not bringing Umunta Hamas like Chiefs did with Gonzalez. He brings the player that he knows how he's going to use him. So another thing that is very crucial when you talk about adapting a player to how you want them to play, you know how they play. He mentioned Uba Nopanalo, and the one from Brazil. I forgot his name. The one that plays with Charlie Lapapambi. He said something very crucial. He said, Ribeiro. He said Ribeiro was more like a winger. But he said to him, I see goals in you. You understand? That alone tells you he saw a quality star in creativity. But he said, I want to invent you and make you a different element now. He's scoring goals. My point is, you have Uban Lumchitalo, Makopa. You remember Makopa from Morocco FC? Makopa, guys, was a scorer with heads. He used to head balls. You kept him to Pirates, you want him to cross to play as a winger. Okay, he's a striker winger, you don't know how. And then you want him to hit balls with his feet and he's good at his head. Those things alone, you go to Chiefs. I think Liverpool, Kumul, remember. You had Peter Crouch and you also had Torres. The way that they played, the way Liverpool played when those two players were on the field was different. Peter Crouch and Macrossy, overhead balls, you know he's going to trap them. Torres was to spaces. That's why Gerard used to pass him a spacing. Those things alone, they play a different element. But then you bring it to South Africa. You have a Makopa right now. Did we see a cross in those past few games? Nothing. No cross whatsoever. Yet you're going to come and say we are playing the South African way. No, we have to also adapt to how a player is playing in that team. But to go back to Indabaga and say, to Indabaga House, Uzwane integrated youngsters. He took them all out. Secondly, Uzwane was creating a lot of chances by transition. He squandered the transition, just wanted to play 7 defenders and just run for no reason. Uzwane had he didn't want to kill that for a reason because he wanted a mobile striker. He had a mobile striker into Priest in those other boys but he didn't play them. Instead, he wanted to play someone who's gonna be to please the Papa. But now to please to run instead of him having to play those balls in my pockets. Uzwane, hey, there are many things. I mean, there are many things that Uzwane did. Yeah, but let me just count those things just for time's sake.
Yeah, for time's sake. How's that? Give me that final point. I'm gonna ask everybody for a final point, just to round out what you were saying.
Okay, let me just jump to this one and close it out. My thing is, Mr. Oti, your question is one that is very valid. You know, we want to see improvements on our leagues and the way the CAF is managed and all those things. But then I still stand by what I said. What kind of system can we adopt for our players? For our players that we find Kobokasi, those who come to trials and all those things. What kind of system can we have that will shape them into players that can be recognized globally? We are playing as a somewhat modern football, but then how many players from South Africa are being recognized? We look at the plethora of youngsters who are overseas. Some of them are born there. They have South African lineage and things like that. It's only a handful where we are starting to export those players, you know. But then my thing is that for us to stand out, we must have a kind of play that says South African. You know, you look at they call it Joga Bonito, if I'm not mistaken, the Brazilian, you know, those kind of things. I believe that's why some of us think that we are a skillful nation because of we saw Bo Moses Pandiele, Boto Seholela, Bo Makmanyambela doing those skills. You know, so that's why we assume that being skillful is a South African thing. But then, in essence, what Malu Abutu Kuzo raised was that we are seeing these players, the stars shine doing these things. But
we even lost the actual question initially. There is a difference, there is a standard, but obviously the lowest of Europe, we cannot say they are better than us. And the highest of the highest in Africa can compete in. You understand? When you look at Ali, they are modern in football. I think they can survive elsewhere. But then
Okay.
again, you spoke about we then move towards the identity crisis, if that's the right term. Some, you see something that works, and if you do have the material, I would say you're actually stupid if you don't use it. You understand? So seeing the European way it's working, it brings results. You would be stupid not to actually take something that works. You understand? But it has to also be in the confines of what we've built. And also, if it's gonna be in the confines of what we've built, we have to make sure that what we've built has worked. Because you're going to be building nonsense, and nonsense. You have to move away from it completely to overhaul. But if it has proven to work before, which in the case of South Africa it has, you have to then incorporate it into that.
Okay.
And also, I just want to say in closing, guys, if there's one thing I've hated my entire life, is overall romanticization of history. I want to generation of Spandiel, I lived through it as a kid, and people used to complain with ibhola lasemzansi selifile, and back then they used to say back then it was better. So let's not use
Okay.
Abu as a yardstick, because frankly they didn't do much for the nation.
Kumo,
Sure.
final statement.
PSL is the best. Timbers One is the best. Sundowns is the best. Eh? I don't care what you all dinosaurs think. The fact remains, yeah, Zwan is the GOAT. And go argue with your kids if you've got anything
It's
to
not
say.
even the quote again. Now, the argument said he will have that episode.
Oh, I get it. It's our show, the breadwinner. And obviously, I'm surrounded here by my enemies. So, yeah, I'm telling them the truth.
Hey, Bara Kubo. Okay, it's fine, Kubo. Theo.
No man it's fine. But to go to your question because it's Valerie, PSL. Let me just say, African football is not that far, guys, from Europe. And we have players that have competed there that have became monumental players there. Eto'o, Drogba. Just that the thing is, as South Africans, we need players that are going to go there. I know we're going to disagree with others on this, but we need players that are going to go get the experience there, not go there and learn. We would see how are they playing. Then we're going to say that's how we need to play. No, go there, impose yourself, so that when you come back, we know which we can compete with like Sofabo France guys. I think for me, the challenge is abroad, is not just, Africa guys. We need to conquer the world. We need to go and challenge more Brazil, more France again. We cannot be struggling with our Mali and then come and say, no, we are still having the good style of play. Or, no, guys, the style of play now is no longer important. The players that are going to impose that style of play is what is important. Thank you, Mr. Uti.
Okay, no, Theo. Thank you so much. My closing statement is simple, guys, and it's something that I want us to question a lot when we are talking football and things like that, and we're comparing. Why? Why do we think Europe is better? Why do we think all of those things count like that? Why do we assume that because those guys do something, we have to do that thing? Why do we have all of these perceptions in our heads when we speak about this stuff? Of course, if somebody in Europe does something, we talk about Messi and those guys, they've been playing that way since they were 5, 6. Why did Europe not look at them and say, yo, guys, the way you guys are playing, you're not skillful enough. Therefore, we must change our style of play. No, they suited what they had. And I feel like a lot of the times, especially in our coaching, especially the things we hear from, especially our coaches, you're not choosing your tactics because your team needs those tactics. You're choosing your tactics because they're fashionable. And you're playing that way because it's fashionable. And 3 years down the line, when you can't find those players because lento ewifundile ibuyale ngale. Ngale, they have a stream of those players coming in. Tina, now you're looking at it and saying, what do our coaches do all the time? Our players want to take the ball and dribble all the time. Our players don't know how to do this. The spacing that was done, that side was done like this. Instead of going, hey, maybe that's how our players play. Maybe, just so maybe you should create a team, a squad, a philosophy that fits the players that you have. There's a clip floating around of one of the coaches I'm forgetting his name. And he said, I got to practice one day and I saw this kid. He was incredible. And that guy, his only problem was the keeper was giving him the ball. He was he'd give somebody a spy to, and then he'd lose the ball and they'd score. And everybody around me was telling me that, no, that player's not good. It's going to be your job. Your job is going to be this, blah, 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 blah. Ne? And he said, okay, I really had a good feeling about him. So what I told him was, I'm going to play you every game. But what I told my team was, don't give him the ball in our half. I'll fine you if you give that player a ball in our half. They ended up winning the league. That shows you little things like coaching, little things like, okay, I have this guy. Let me pair him with somebody who doesn't do that. Or let me teach him, okay, Mauyenza saw, why are you doing it? Because the effect on game, guys, is not just about the goals and the assists and all of that stuff. Effect on game is many different things. Kushapaka spy to. Once spy to have eliminated you, you win the ball back. Do you know what's going to happen? The next time I come to you, that defender is going to move a little bit different. Kushapaka spy, Kushapa 360, halfway line. The crowd goes crazy. Now your team is under pressure, Baraki 12th man. Those are all assets. But we don't view them as assets as South Africans or Africans because we look at it and we go, no, but this one does this to minus, which is true, great. But you can't say I haven't affected the game when I've done that thing. So why not build around it? Tina Ekasi, guys, Ekasi, come on. Everybody knows it was a 4-4-2. Usually it was a 4-4-2. There's a 4 and a 5. One is a sweeper, one is the defender. One is usually a director, one is usually a pit bull. One guy tells everybody where to go, the other guy goes in for the tackles. In the middle, you had two guys. One guy was there to progress the ball, usually the silky one, Chawita or whatever. You have somebody behind him that is the muscle. You lose the ball, I win it back to give it back to him so he can give it back to the people to the up front. You usually had one wing that was showboating, number 11, usually. Showboating. The other wing was the effective one. But you needed a balance of them so that it's going to change how they do that and it's going to allow these guys to be free. For example, there's plenty of ways to look at these things. But the problem is that, Tina, we've adopted or we want to adapt or adopt the ways of play, the tactics, all of that from them. And they have reasons for why they do that. They have reasons. Johan Cruyff has a reason why he started playing that way. Oh, he thought of that thing. Netherlands has a reason why they needed total football. It's probably because maybe they didn't have as many skilled players. So everybody had to learn how to play each other's positions. Therefore, then they branded it as total football, right? So that's Netherlands' reason for doing it based on their situation. Why are you doing it in SA? Why are you doing it in SA with a team that doesn't have any of those problems? And then we wonder when Netherlands has been playing total football for 10 years. You've been playing total football for 5 years with players that before that, they hadn't played total football. Half their lives has been played a different football. Now you're installing a new football. And then you expect that you're going to go and compete with those guys. We talk about Messi, Xavi, and all that. They've played a form of tiki-taka. A form of Barcelona football for all of their lives. Tiki-taka is one more step on top. So now you're telling me that we're going to take 25-year-olds and 27-year-olds who've never played that football, have them play it, and go and compete with those guys. They're going to show you, they're going to kill you. So that's where I'm like, at what point do we look at our attributes and our players, and instead of labeling them as being, hey, this one is this one is this, you figure out a way to make them play. Because if I can play that kokasi when I'm 7, and that system can sustain me until I'm 20, I will be the best in the world at that system. I will be the best. But if you're going to play me one way when I'm 5, and then when I'm 22, I must head up balls, what's going to happen? So I wanted to ask about those things, right? But also, why do we view things like that? We call this European football modern football. We bar it. We say that it's the one and all of that stuff, right? Great. But does Europe ever look at you and go, ooh, African football? Ooh, hi, we need to get more skillful. So let's adopt what they're doing. No. But anyway, guys, time. I've gone over a little bit. Thank you so much to everybody who's joined me. This was the members show, the 12:30 show. The normal show is usually on at 8 p.m. Mondays to Thursdays. Fridays 12:30 for members. We've been starting the show at 7 because in the following, during AFCON, matches are on at 7, so we can have our conversations as usual while also enjoying matches as well. So for the duration of AFCON, we're going to have matches at 7. I'll let you know when I'm going to be live tomorrow for the matches that I'm going to play tomorrow. But thank you guys so much for joining me. If you have not followed, please follow. These are the things, these are the conversations we have. It even gets even worse on the group. We have a WhatsApp group. If you want to join the WhatsApp group, go on over to YouTube, subscribe, click on join, 20 Rand a month, and you get access to our WhatsApp group, which is incredible. We have these conversations all day, every single day, and we don't have time constraints. It's incredible, the type of things. This is just a glimpse into some of the conversations we have there. So go ahead and join there if you have not joined, guys. Thank you so much to those who commented. Thank you to those who liked. Thank you to those who watched. Wherever you watch, YouTube, Facebook. We're back on Facebook, by the way. We're back on Facebook. Facebook or on TikTok. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you then. I'll let you know tomorrow, and we'll go from there. Thank you guys so much. Bye.